Justice League number 25, written by Jeff Johns, art by Doug Mahnke. So this is just another one of those backstories of what's going on with the crime syndicate. And this one happens to be Owlman. So we see 30 years ago in a alternate universe, Earth 3, we've got Thomas Wayne, Martha Wayne, Bruce Wayne, and Thomas Wayne Jr. making their way from a movie, and essentially Martha and Thomas are bickering over money because Thomas Wayne is apparently a very sadistic surgeon who just has so much medical malpractice suits against him that it's draining their family fortune dry. And as they're bickering, Thomas Wayne Jr. takes Bruce under his arm and holds up a gun and says, "Hey, Mom and Dad, put up your dukes, put up your arms." And he explains, "You are draining our family fortune. You're not going to leave anything for me and Bruce. So I'm going to kill you now, and we're going to take what's rightfully ours." And Bruce is like, Tommy, I don't think I'm cool with this anymore. And he's just like, "Bruce, stop being such a little bitch. We're going to go ahead and kill Mom and Dad." And the mom immediately is just like, "Oh, yeah, you think you got it in you? Let's see it, huh? You don't got it. You're grounded, kid." And Bruce tackles Tommy, to the ground, starts wrestling him. But then all of a sudden, the parents get bullet wounds to their chest. They immediately die. And Bruce also gets shot in the chest. And we see that it is Alfred of this universe who's basically stepping up and saying, "There you go, Master Thomas. Our plan succeeded." And as Bruce looks up from Crime Alley, he sees an owl perched there calling out, "Who?" And he takes that as "Oh, you ask who I am? I'm Thomas Wayne Jr., bitch." And he shoots Bruce one more time for good measure. So then we cut to now, and there's a meeting of a bunch of gangsters going on, including one that's playing with a rubber band. Wouldn't you know it? And his name is Eel. So we see the gangsters are essentially having a meeting to try to come up with any sort of reason to give to the crime syndicate of how they could be useful. And they're pretty much coming up dry because the crime syndicate only cares about superhumans. And Eel views this as a positive. He's like, "Yeah, they don't care about us. We can easily just sneak under the radar. No big deal." But then Owlman bursts in through the roof and just starts kicking everyone's ass, killing them almost immediately. We see a couple of barrels holding some form of chemicals start spilling out on some of the gangsters, including Eel. And Eel gets caught in this chemical explosion. His skin just starts melting. It looks very plasticky as he screams out for help. It's Plastic Man, for anyone who didn't know. That's Plastic Man's origin now, is Owlman did it. So we see Owlman has taken the two heads of the crime families that were talking, and he's basically like, "Look, I want to be able to run Gotham City through one of you. One of you will control all the crime, and you'll do whatever I say. So who's going to be my stooge?" And they just start tripping over each other, trying to "Oh, it's me. I'm a better stooge. I'll do it." Until one of them says, "I promise, I'll do whatever you say, Batman." And Owlman just cuts him loose, lets him fall from the top of a building, and says the other one, "All right, you work for me now. You'll do whatever I say. Your family is mine." And that's kind of a recurring thing in Owlman's inner monologue, is he's trying to build a family to replace the one that he killed. So we cut back to the Watchtower, and Grid is basically talking to the outsider, Alfred, and is just like, "Yeah, a lot of people we feel like are going to try to rescue Dick Grayson since we unmasked him. We probably should kill him." And that's what most of the crime syndicate thinks. But then Owlman shows up and be like, "It's not what I think. Does Ultraman want to kill him?" And just like, "Yes." And it's like, "Does he have any other plans that I don't know about?" I was like, "No." It's like, "What about Superwoman? She's not here." "Okay, well, I'm going to go talk to Dick Grayson. Turn off all the cameras." So Grid turns to Alfred and is just like, "Hey, what is he hoping to achieve here?" And he's like, "Oh, he wants Dick Grayson to join us." And Grid's like, "He's not going to do that." And Alfred's like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm still going to help him. He's my family." So we see a flashback to the Dick Grayson of the Earth 3 universe, and it turns out he had a sister in this universe as well, and her name was Rachel. And then one night, all of their ropes break except for Dick's, and they all die. And there waiting in order to take him in is Thomas Wayne Jr., and we see him saying, "Oh, I'm right here for you." And then in the current universe, he comes up to our own Dick Grayson, and he puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "Hey, I'm here for you." And Dick Grayson's like, "What are you talking about, dude?" And he's like, "Oh, well, in my universe, Dick Grayson called me a brother. He was a close friend of mine, and I want you to be that." And he's like, dude, you're insane. I'm not going to do that. And he's like, no, I know you're not the same Dick Grayson, but look, we have unmasked you. Your life is over. There's no way you can go back to being Nightwing. At that point, Nightwing's like burst out of his chains. They're having a fight, but Owlman just continues the conversation anyway. And he's like, the plans that the Crime Syndicate has, the plans that Ultraman has, is he's going to take over the world and he's going to rule it with an iron fist. However, in this universe, there is only so much kryptonite and Ultraman is weak without it. So either we can let the world be ruled by Ultraman, or you can let the world be ruled by me with you at my side. What do you say? And Nightwing, he understands that, like, better that there's a Batman than a Superman. And he says, yeah, sure, all right, I'm in. And he's like, cool, awesome. Gonna need to tie you back up, though, because, like, Crime Syndicate doesn't want you out and about. They want to kill you. So I gotta just, like, reason them to not do that. And we get two little reveals here. The first is in the Earth 3 universe that Thomas Wayne Jr. actually orchestrated the death of the Flying Graysons in order to get Dick Grayson to be his ward because he just wanted his own Talon at that point. And then in our universe, turns out Superwoman was actually around. She heard Owlman's whole plan, and now she'll probably use it for blackmail or something. So yeah, overall, it's a fine issue. I do feel like I already heard the Owlman origin from like a different book. I can't remember what book it was, but there was some other book where like we were talking about the Outsider's origin. We were going through his whole thing, and like he explained exactly the same things. We saw exactly the same things. So it's a bit weird that we took that much time in this issue to explain basically the exact same origin again, but I mean, it looks fine. It's told well. I'm not that worried about it. Beyond that, I think this one is probably the best in terms of tie-ins in that it's not required reading to understand a core premise of the plot, but it is adding this deeper layer to the Crime Syndicate that you wouldn't get through the core Forever Evil book. So I think this one's a pretty good tie-in, all things considered. I probably would give it I'll give it an 8. I think I actually really like this one. Not the Plastic Man bit. That's just solid on its own. I think that's a brutal origin, but I wish they would have rolled with that because, spoiler alert, they didn't really do anything with it for the rest of the New 52 to the best of my knowledge. So, yeah, it's a fine book. It's doing strong. I don't think that it's required, but then again, it's a tie into an event. So they tell you that pretty much up front.